Hello again. Here is a history project. If you're looking for a little more about Athens and Sparta, or your child is crushing it, or you just need a little extra time to get something done with another child, here's something that your kiddo can do with what we're learning this week in history. So parents, this will be a folded large piece of paper and two pictures of an Athenian and a Spartan that should be at the bottom of the stack that I sent home with you. So I started, kiddos, by coloring. You'll notice my Spartan warrior. His clothes were probably made out of leather, so I colored them brown. He has his spear and then his cape floating in the wind. And then here's my Athenian thinker. So you'll notice his clothes are mostly white. He has his staff, and then on his head, a band or a laurel wreath. So first you want to color both of these guys, okay? Then you want to go ahead and bubble cut them out. You don't have to cut them perfectly on the lines. I just bubble cut them for you. Now, you should have a piece of paper that's larger than mine. I gave it to you so you'd have a little bit more space. I just have a plain sheet of paper. I'm going to start with my Spartan, and I'm going to put some glue on the back of him and get him on my page. Now, I want you, while we're doing this, to think about some things you know about Sparta. You should already know that when boys were 7, they had to go train to be soldiers, and that their leaders were an oligarchy of warriors. Okay, so here's my Spartan. I have him glued on, and I'm going to start by writing Sparta. Now you can do this in bubble letters or block letters or fancy letters. I'm going to quickly do some bubble letters at the top of my page. Yours doesn't have to be the same as mine, but it can be if you wish. So I'm writing Sparta for the name of this city-state. And then we're going to add 3 things that were important to the Spartans. So here it says Sparta. Now, if you remember from the story the other day, when when a man left his home, his mother said, "Come back with your shield or on it." And that really meant win or die. So up here in the top corner, I'm going to write win or die. And I'm going to put quotes around it because that was something that was said in Sparta. Win or die. Now, we also know that they were all warriors. So I'm going to write that word over here. Warriors, you can see that. And then the final thing we're going to write is that they loved what was old and useful. So this is a contrast, something that's different from Athens. The Spartans loved things that were old. If it worked and they knew it worked, keep it. Don't get rid of it. And if it was useful. So if it was something that helped their lives, they were going to keep it. They weren't going to search for something new. So we're going to write loved old and useful. Okay, so here is loved old and useful. Here's my Spartan warrior. Again, it should say Sparta, fancy letters, you can color them. Win or die, warriors, and loved old and useful. Now on the back of the page, I'm going to add my Athenian man. Remember, he's the thinker. He's not going off to war. He is creating, thinking, and trying to understand. Those were the things that were important in Athens. So when I write Athens on this one, I'm going to write it in fancy letters this time. So I'm going to do nice curly cues. And get this looking fancy because they loved beauty in Athens. Okay. So here's where it says Athens at the top. They were school. They loved school. So let's write learners instead of warriors. Okay. They were learners. They were always learning things. So learners. Okay. We're going to write that this was the most important city. Remember, this is where we get most of the things that we consider Greek is from the city-state of Athens. So I'm going to write most important city. And you can write this anywhere you'd like on the page. It doesn't have to be in the same place as mine. And then they loved what was new and beautiful. So they weren't really so much into if it was useful And they weren't into if it was old and tried and true. They loved to always be finding new things, and they loved beautiful things. So loved new and beautiful. All right. So you can freeze this video at any point. I will also put the text down underneath, parents, for you to write down for your children if you'd like. But you should have now a page with two sides. The two most important city-states of ancient Greece, Sparta with their warriors and Athens with their great thinkers. And there is a little history for today.